Okay, so by this time you're making music, you've dropped singles, you've dropped albums, you're collaborating with people, you're touring. A lot of us don't know what it's like to tour musically in Nigeria. Can you give us an outlook on what's that? Because I'm sure it's the same everywhere, but I'm sure Nigeria's own packaging for.
Early touring, like in the early days, was rough.
Wow.
It was rough because, especially for people like us who had like a crew. I remember one time we had to go do a show. I think it was the Nuga Games. So now it had become like a campus sensation, right? All the universities wanted to invite tribesmen and the tribe and, to come perform. So we're going to Nuga Games, and obviously they couldn't fly us.
Right.
So we had to go by road. And so we all get into this luxurious bus.
Okay.
I don't recall if it was ABC or...
I know ABC Transport.
One of those. It was one of those. So we all get on the bus, and on the way to Zaria, I think we stopped at Jeba someplace, and 2 shots, and Dr. Sid got off we all got off the bus. Like they have these stops where you can go eat and like chill out or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we all got back on the bus, and then we noticed at some point that 2 shots and Sid weren't on the bus. And then the bus started to move. And we're trying to get the bus driver's attention, and the bus driver was just like, yo, if you missed, we don't tell you not, maybe you saw me, you go
Right.
So, and then we look behind us while we're in the bus, and 2 shots and Dr. Sid are chasing, literally, the luxurious bus on the highway, and like screaming and yelling for the bus to stop. Thankfully, we made enough noise. There were enough of us to make enough noise for the bus driver to eventually stop for them to get back on the bus. But yeah, that was one memorable event. Another thing is going to campuses was kind of risky, and we learned this, very early as well as tribesmen, performing in places like UNIBEN, or UI or IFE and all these places, and Osu. Oh man,
wow!
I went to Osu once and I vowed never to go back. Osu is now called. I think it's called something else now. University of Abeokuta. It's the university in Abeokuta.
Right.
Yeah, it used to be Ogun State University. I think they changed the name.
Right.
Stand corrected. But anyway, so we go there. This was with MTV. MTV had just come to Nigeria.
Wow.
And MTV was doing these campus tours. And so I went there as a solo artist. I was LD at this time. This wasn't even Tribesman. This was like much later. And so we get to the place where we're doing this show, and obviously I went to a university campus in Nigeria, so I started to notice a few gatherings of people, and I realized, okay, it's about to go it's about to go crazy here.
Yeah.
So I'm telling the MTV people and the producers, I'm like, yo, listen, you guys have to make sure you do not announce, but put us on the bus and get us out of here, right? Because it's about to get crazy. And they're like, There's a couple white people there.
Right.
It's MTV. South Africans. And, no, eLDee, no. I'm like, listen.
Right.
I've been on a university campus. I know when it's about to go down. I can see these guys grouping. Right? So please, get us out of here. Anyway, eventually someone decided, you know what? If they want to leave, just get them. As soon as we got on the bus and we started moving, they attacked the whole concept. It was 2 factions. Someone said, they're the ones who were supposed to provide protection for the event, and they didn't get paid, and this other person took the money, and they don't care, they're the ones who run the campus, so that it just became a huge mess, and machetes came out, like it was just, so anyway, and that was a common thing, back then. So touring, as compared to I guess what it is, I don't know what it's like now, because I haven't toured Nigeria in a while, but back then it was really, really rough, and we didn't have much of a security apparatus in those days. But then I guess towards like the mid-2000s became standard to like have a bunch of mopo, be with armed guards and all of that stuff before you could go out. But yeah, touring.
Did you feel safer with armed guards, or sometimes? Cause I mean, when I'm in Nigeria, sometimes I feel less safe when they're around. Sometimes, but sometimes I do feel more safe when they're there.
So if you're inconspicuous, then obviously it's safe. You're safer, right?
Right.
But then if people are going to notice you anyway, then you're better off having some layer of protection.
Mm-hmm.
So the layer of protection of like having like, 5-6 mobiles or with AK-47s,
Mm-hmm.
It at least gets in the way of the just random guy who wants to attack you. I remember one time I went to a concert, this guy came up to me and he was like, man, I just want to stab you, man, I just stab you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just want to stab you, man. Make I know say I stab eLDee,
God have mercy.
Pull a knife out.
Yeah, I believe it.
And I was looking, I was like, yo. So obviously I know how to control those situations because I've been in a ton of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so we managed the situation, whatever, talk, chop it up, and calm them down and took them away. But it was that dangerous. So you had to have, obviously by the time we became famous, you had to have security.
Did you ever feel the need to arm yourself, whether it's with a blade or with some sort of weapon or anything? No. Okay.
Not really. When I was younger, I did a little bit of martial arts. Okay. So I always felt like I could defend myself if it came down to it. Like the average unsuspecting guy,
right,
who tries to attack me will probably be surprised, right? But I wasn't arrogant. Like,
right.
And they teach you to not be arrogant too, because you never know,
Mm-hmm.
And if you're paying attention, right? The guy who came and told me I won't stab you. What if he just came from behind me and stabbed me? Like,
yeah, right.
What would martial arts do for me in that moment? Like,
right.
I could, yeah. So, but I didn't ever feel the need to protect myself in that sense. But there was always protection. Like I always had people around.
Right.
At some point, even on my campus when I was in UNILAG, I had to have groups of gangs and cult people become my protection.
Yeah.
So when you're going out to go do stuff, there's certain people that need to come with you.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that you can guarantee that you're going to go in and out without any altercations and stuff. So it was very rough.
But does it when artists need maybe some sort of, what's the right word, affiliation? Whether it's with maybe like a cult group or like gang area boys, anything like that. Does it get dicey sometimes? Do they expect their money up front, and do they expect to be? They need food, they need water, they need
Well, if you have people, so I didn't necessarily have like that kind of relationship with a lot of like the gang members or like the cult boys or whatever. I think it was more of a we like you and we want to protect you. And so my reciprocation at that point is, okay, if I'm taking them out, I gotta feed them.
Right.
I gotta give them some money.
Right.
If I get paid, I'm earmarking like 10% of my cut to just give to them. Just so that they also feel encouraged.
Yeah. And
so now they're coming to protect me just because they like me, and then I give them money. They're like, whoa.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, we did for you, like just whatever.
right.
Let me know, like anybody, like people would sometimes even just be trying to say hello, and they would get tackled. So
right.
So there was that, but then I felt like more recently, and just based on what I've heard, and this is all hearsay, I don't know anything for a fact, right?
Sure.
Based on what I've heard, artists are having to actually become affiliated.
Yeah.
And actually join, gangs and cults and all of this stuff in, for protection. Right. Which I don't even know if I would have been able to handle that. But it's a tough place to be.
I can imagine,
but I understand it.
Yeah, same. Especially if this is where someone wants to thrive, and depending on the climate of the situation, especially now. Yeah. But back to what you were saying, I think that really stems to respect, and respect is something that sometimes your money can't buy. When, like you said, when people want to support you, protect you, be with you. Sometimes, I'm sure, maybe the money didn't go around when you settled everyone. You know what I mean?
Hey, I always try to make it go around.
Oh, you try.
Like, even if I didn't, and often I didn't walk away with anything. Especially in the first, decade of my career. Like I gave I put all of it back into it. So even that was a way of sort of putting money back into it. Because if this was going to grow, and we're gonna get to the point where I could get to an event venue
Right.
unscathed from the parking lot into the hall,
Mm-hmm.
because the venues aren't set up the way that they're set up here, where you
Of
can go
course.
through the back, right?
Right.
You have to go in through the gate like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You had to have some type of, I hate to call it muscle, but you
Mm-hmm.
had to have something
Right.
that guaranteed that you could do that. So it becomes part of the process,
Okay.
in a sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about like other people in tribesmen? Hopefully they've never had any crazy altercation on their own.
They probably did,
Oh,
for sure.
Okay.
They probably did, for sure.
Mm.
And so we basically ran off the same model. And I guess it was unspoken, but
Mm-hmm.
everyone recognized the danger that existed in not really having protection when you're on a Nigerian campus.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with back then how violent it was.
Right.
I don't think well, at least I don't hear about violence these days.
Mhm.
Maybe because of social media, maybe
Right.
because people are more discreet or whatever. But there was a lot of violence.
I've heard. I've heard, especially.
Back
It's like I don't know what it is about college in Nigeria, but people would find themselves in a lot of different things. Even though you came to study math, came to study English, and by the time you even leave with your degree, you have different factions and stuff like that. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
For more DXR media content, follow us on our socials. More content's on the way.